Having a chance to go back and kind of get into a fall camp mode for this week has been really good for a lot of players. Just working on fundamentals, really back to the basics. Just in the run game offensively, conceptually in the throw game, getting a chance to rep a lot of different groups, a lot of players. So it's been really good from the offensive standpoint. Defensively, just kind of going back and getting back to the basics, striking blockers up front, really on all three levels, block protection, being able to get off blocks, going back and in our pattern match from a secondary standpoint, and linebackers being able to go back to the basics and work fundamentals, and in special teams, just taking, whether it's one or two units a week or 2 units a day, twice a week here with, punt and punt return, just going back to fundamentals, giving guys that didn't really have an opportunity to win a job and on those teams early on in the season, getting a chance to rep a lot of different guys has been good. Our players have worked really hard in the first 2 days of practice. We've got 2 more this week, and then we'll give them Friday and Saturday off before we get ready for Arkansas. So I really like the attitude of our team. I think when you look at where we're at right now, obviously everybody in our program is disappointed. But I think the most important thing at this point is to figuring out, number one, what are we doing pretty good right now, and two, what are we not, and how do we fix that? So it's been a really good couple of days here to go back to get to these fundamentals and figure out exactly where it's at and how do we go back and get it fixed. So any questions?
Questions, we'll start with Jimmy Himes, then we'll go to Nicholas Hill.
Jeremy, you had mentioned after the Alabama game that you were closing the gap, and I wonder if you were referring to perhaps the culture of the program, or maybe your recruiting, maybe your play at the line of scrimmage. What were you referring to there?
Well, the most important thing is on the scoreboard, which is not showed up, right? So that's the most important thing, and it hadn't showed up there. But to me, I was very familiar with that program, right? And when I got here, I knew exactly what the difference was within the two programs. And I would say 3 years later, I'm still pretty familiar with that one. And I know where this program kind of is right now. The thing that we've got to do as a program is it's got to show up on game day. And it didn't this past Saturday. And that's the most important thing. So, that's something that we've got to continue to work on to help fix. And our guys are doing that.
Nick?
Yeah, so since now you probably have a bye week, are you spending more intensive time with the defensive line this week?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yes, Coach. Since you finally have a bye week and have some time to really go back to the basics, especially with the defensive line, just, how are you, individually spending more time on that unit, considering that, you're essentially their coach at the moment?
Right. Yeah. So I really have. I've really kind of dove into the defensive line. To me, we've always been kind of an attacking style defense. And we hadn't really been playing that way. You kind of got to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage if you're going to be able to stop the runs and create negative plays and affect the quarterback. And we've really got to improve in that area. And I think it goes back to just fundamentally, being more of an attacking style. So, but we've got lots of areas on defense that we've got to improve on. And we have a plan to do that, and our players are trying to work hard to get it fixed.
Austin Price, then David Ubben.
Coach, you talked Saturday about being kind of, disappointed in the play of the secondary over the last few weeks. Are there some guys during this bye week that have a chance to kind of either get corrected, or guys that haven't been playing that has caught your eye through the first couple of days of practice to think that maybe they can come on for this back half of the season?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in the guys that play in our secondary. They've played a lot of football around here and played some really good football at times. I think, one of the big things is it's pretty evident for these guys how important practice is. And unfortunately for a lot of those guys, we kind of got hit pretty hard in that area during fall camp. So when you miss practice time there, you've got to be really sharp in preparation. And I think moving forward, our guys they'll continue to improve back there with their communication. One thing back there is very similar to the O-line. We're usually playing with 5 defensive backs. And very seldom over the last couple of years have we had situations to where we've had busted coverages or left people open or not played very good technique. And we've had much more of that this year. And we've got to eliminate that because the defensive backs really place the limitations on your defense. Again, I have a lot of confidence in these guys. They're working hard. We're creating depth back there. And there is some younger guys. We've moved a few guys around. Just an example like Keyshawn Lawrence. So, he's a guy that we recruited in here to play corner. So all during the summer when we had the walkthroughs, he played corner. And as we practiced a couple of days, he looked really good. And, but we didn't think maybe he was going to be in front of Alante or Bryce. But we thought, hey, this is a guy that we want to find a way to get him on the field. So we're thinking maybe in our 6 defensive back package, move the kid to safety and give him a chance to be a starter in our 6 defensive back package. So he practices on defense or safety for probably 7 or 8 practices. And then we lose all of our corners to quarantine and to be able to practice just to have numbers, we move him back to corner. So that's a particular situation that's probably wasn't fair to him, and it's probably delayed his development as a defensive player. But we've just left him at corner, and he's done really well. This week, we're going to play him a little bit at star in this open week just to see from a conceptual standpoint how he does there, because he's a guy that continues to kind of show up. And he's one of the guys. Tamarian McDonald's another guy that obviously didn't practice any until 2 weeks ago. So this is a really good week for him. Just to go back and go back to the first 4 days of fall camp, how we put in everything from middle field coverage to split safety coverage to man to fire zones to pressures with trap and things like that, just to kind of go back and get a foundation for him. So there's a lot of guys that kind of fall into that.
David Oven.
Jeremy, 2 questions. One, you mentioned on the call just now that you guys had learned some lessons in July that you might be able to apply to the bye week. What were some of those lessons? And 2, when you mentioned that you guys are having some of those busts in the secondary, what's your guess for why those are happening this year when they really haven't happened much for you guys in the past?
Yeah. Well, just going back to the COVID lessons, I think the big thing is it's very unpredictable, right? So you may feel like you're doing everything the right way as far as the mask and, but you can't assume that somebody that's kind of not in the testing procedure, that they don't have the virus. It's better off to assume if they're not in their testing protocol that they do have the virus and you need to stay away, so, which is tough. My family's not in the testing protocol, right? So I get it, when a lot of these guys, they see, whether it's their family members, a girlfriend or grandparents, whatever it is, right? Friends. So just understanding that these guys have worked really hard to try to get the opportunity to be able to play. So we did learn some lessons from that. As far as the making, mistakes in the secondary, It's really kind of uncharacteristic for this group of guys because they've all played a lot of ball together. But one thing that has happened, Alante has kind of been in and out of the lineup because of his hamstring since fall camp. Bryce, he missed the Missouri game. He's playing with a torn pec right now, and something that's kind of healing on its own. So he's missed some practice time. Schamberger's missed. Jalen McCullough, was out. They just kind of been in and out. And as a group, when people go in motion, when they shift, when they change, when they get in stacks, when they get in bunches, there's lots of communication. We're not very vanilla in the secondary. We play a lot of different coverages and try to man match a lot of things and create issues for the quarterback. But to be able to do that, you've got to be really good communicators, and all 5 people have got to be on the same page. And unfortunately, we've had some of those deals to where we've not, and we've got to eliminate that and make the other team earn it.
Vince Ferrara, then Brent Cross.
Coach, 2 things. One, when you went back and evaluated the tape for Alabama, you guys ran the ball an awful lot on 3rd and 5 and greater. What do you attribute that to? General philosophy, opponent, situation, things like that. And then the second thing is, with Chandler and Gray being such good offensive players for you, are you guys looking at maybe trying to have both of them on the field at the same time as a threat?
Right. So, well, if you watch the first 4 games of Alabama, they gave up a lot of runs on 3rd down with people playing fast. And, probably one of the reasons is they're very similar to us, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, kind of in the same defensive family. Is when it gets 3rd down, they want to put 6 defensive backs on the field. When it comes to protections, you get exotic looks or whatever. So, over the first 4 games, they gave up a lot of runs on 3rd down, particularly the last couple of weeks. So something that we thought that we possibly could do. There was a couple of times that, we're probably in 4 down territory. So you're trying to minimize, go from 3rd and 7 to 4th and 2 or 3. But that's really the philosophy behind it.
And then Gray and Chandler together on the field.
Right. So, we do have some packages to do that. And probably as the season goes, we'll probably see more of that, but just not had an opportunity to do it yet.
Coach, when you look at and evaluate things through 5 games, what's your evaluation of your defense's tackling ability? Where do you think that needs to improve, or how does that need to improve? And then secondly, you've had your hands on the ball a few times in the secondary, but have not been able to complete the interception. How do you improve that part in the back half of the season?
To me, just looking the first 5 games defense, the thing that sticks out the most is number one, the mistakes that we've made. The first thing you want to be able to do defensively is you want to be sound, and you want to make the other team earn it. If you make the other team earn it, you got a shot. How do you do that? You keep edges on the defense. You don't let the ball run around the defense. Whether it's a run play or a perimeter throw play, you don't give up explosive plays down the field. You make them throw the ball in front of you with tight coverage. Then you become a good you got to be a good tackling team, so there's no yards after contact. I think Saturday we missed 23 tackles. I think Alabama got 97 yards after contact, which you can't have. The next thing is on 3rd down, you've got to get off the field. And we've been very poor on 3rd down, which is not kind of who we've been in the past. So we've obviously got to address those issues. And then you just said it, creating turnovers, having an opportunity that when the play's there to be made is making the play, and finishing on the ball, whether it's knocking a ball off somebody or the ball's in the air, you get your hands on it and finishing it off. So we've got to be more opportunistic on defense.
Trey Wallace and Blake Trotline.
Jeremy, can you update the status on how Wanye Morris is coming along? Was he ready to go last weekend? And then also, second part to that, how do you feel JaMarr Johnson did on Saturday against Alabama?
You know, Wanye practiced a little bit on Tuesday and Wednesday, and he probably could have played on Saturday. Would he have been 100%? Probably not. He was a couple of days away. He has participated this week in practice and looks pretty good. He's gaining confidence. You know, JaMarr has not, you know, he got hurt in the South Carolina game, didn't practice against Missouri, tried to practice against Georgia. It was kind of a game time deal there, wasn't ready to go. And then Kentucky still just wasn't quite there. I thought as we practiced the week of Alabama, he gained confidence. You think about it as an O-lineman, if you're not practicing for 3 weeks, you get a little rusty. And I thought he gained confidence. And I thought particularly at both offensive tackles, we played better last week.
Jeremy, you mentioned in your opening statement, this is a good time to evaluate what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. You've touched on some of those things that you don't feel like you're doing well, but I was wondering in that evaluation, what stood out about, what things do you think you are doing well, this team?
Yeah, I feel like offensively, just in the probably 3 run concepts, running inside zone and some RPOs that we've ran off of it. That's a couple of things we've done well. We call them chop routes. We hit Jalen Hyde on a couple of them Saturday. We've had earlier in the year, we hit Brandon Johnson on a few of them. Feel like that standpoint has been much improved. Defensively, for the most part, I've been pretty pleased with the inside linebackers. Not as much this past week. I felt like we were out of place a little bit on some runs, but I felt like we played better at that point there. From a communication standpoint, with the front, I'm talking about the linebackers to the defensive front. Has for losing our signal caller and Daniel Batuli, I thought Henry has done a pretty good job there. Lots of times the other team, they'll look at the defense and make checks, and we want to, when they check, we want to check. So I felt like Henry's done a nice job doing that. I feel like the play of Matthew Butler and Latrell Bumpus in this past week, Aubrey Solomon, was much improved. In the kicking game, Solansky's done a nice job snapping. I think Paxton Brooks has done a really good job placing his punts. I thought this past week was really good. When you look at our kickoff return, we're not as good on kickoff returns where we've had double teams at the point of attack. We're not where we need to be there. I thought our backline guys have done a really nice job, much better than we've done the last 2 years, operating back there. Kickoff coverage has been pretty good. We need better play out of our missiles, and then on the punt team, to me, there's been a couple of times that really on our zone side, where we call it being hat short. One happened Saturday, guy comes off the edge. Bumpus has really got that guy in the count, but because somebody kind of threw their guy inside, he flashed in front of Bumpus, and we got close to getting a punt block. So, and on our punt return, we hadn't had a lot of opportunities. We've not put much pressure on the opposing punter this year. And I think in the previous years we've blocked a punt each year. So, we've went back and tried to study and do it with every particular group. What the running backs feel like we're doing good there. What we need to work on this week. We've done that with every individual group. So we got something that we can focus on this week.
Last 2 questions really quickly. Jimmy Hines and David Owen.
Jeremy, I don't know if you saw the play where DK Metcalf ran down a interceptor against Seattle versus Arizona. If you did see that, is there any chance you might have shown that to your team?
I did not show it to the team. I did see it though. Somewhere it was. I don't know what I saw it on. It was he was on the goal line. I'm assuming that where he ran the guy on the interception
Right.
down there. Yeah, no, it's great effort, right? So, and that's what to me, when you look at every team play, to me, are you playing that way every snap? And these are the habits that you create in practice. So every day we keep up with the max speeds of every one of our players. It's the first thing that we go over with each individual group. So, Elijah Simmons, we know that his max speed at 340 pounds is 15.8 miles per hour. That's as fast as he can run. So if he's running 11 miles an hour at practice, that ain't good enough, so he's got, and then how long does he sustain that max speed? On the defensive backfield, we've got several guys that run in the 20s and 21s. Where are they at practice or in games, right? So it's a good indication of how they play. I think as a coach, for us, we can look at the yardages and see kind of, are we doing too much, especially at wide receiver, and early in camp, we had to be careful there because we had so many guys out. You wanted a guy like Josh Palmer, you had to shut him down every day at 6,000 yards just because we had other guys out. You didn't want him taking extra reps and be at 7 or 8, or he'd kind of end up, eventually, having soft tissue injuries. So, but yeah, I think that's a good indication of how hard you play.
Last question, David.
Jeremy, through 5 games on the whole, how would you assess your pass rush so far?
Well, I felt like the first game, we done a really nice job against South Carolina, affected the quarterback. The next game was a little bit different in terms of changing quarterbacks and how they played and what they did. We must improve there, so you can be a team that is a pressure team where you're bringing 5, 6, or 7 guys and you put the pressure on the back end of the secondary because if you're going to bring those folks, most of the time the quarterback knows it and he can get the ball out of his hand. You look like Saturday, there was lots of times Alabama was protecting with 7 or 8 man protection, right? So most of those times we were trying to guard them in the back end and didn't necessarily do a good job with that all the time. And then there's times that they protected with 5 and maybe we're rushing 4. So we've got to improve there. We got to improve in the interior D-line. We've got to improve at outside backer. We've got to improve as blitzers from inside backers, secondary guys. So all the way around, we've got to improve our pass defense, affecting the quarterback, whether it's disguises, pass rush, coverage, whatever it is, we must improve.
Coach, reminding our players around 1:35 today. I'll put who they are in their group text, and we'll keep you posted on the schedule. Thank you.